Hey y'all, this is a new game from a tournament I just played yesterday, and well, I assume you saw the title. This is a very defensive game, and I had to struggle to survive here. So let's get into it. My opponent starts off the game with e4, and I go c6, trying to play a d5, which is like Caro-Kann. My opponent plays d4, I go d5, and my opponent plays the line that I know the least about. My opponent plays the exchange variation, which really is quite simple, but for some reason this is just a line where I don't have that much theory because the other lines are more complicated and you need more theory, right? So I'm already not happy here. My opponent goes bishop d3, which is mainly what you play. I go knight f6, c3, defending the pawn, knight f6, sorry, knight c6 was the first move, knight f6, bishop f4, I go bishop g4. This has all been played before. The idea of bishop g4 is basically okay, I'm getting my bishop out with tempo, and you don't really want to play like e6 in these lines because your bishop gets trapped on c8. I don't really like these lowest positions. H3 is sometimes a really scary move in the exchange variation because your bishop can't get to this g4 square, and it gets a little spicy. But my opponent plays queen b3. Queen d7, defending my b7 pawn, knight d2, e6, knight gf3, and I already make a mistake on move 9. I mean, I realized that it was a mistake like right after I played the move. I played the move bishop e7, which is just stupid. The idea is basically I should have played bishop d6, and I would have, except for some reason I just thought that this pawn was lost, but it's not. Like, this is better for black. I mean, I don't have to take right away. I can probably just go castles or something. And I mean, like, this is just better for black. I don't know why I didn't realize that. Kind of annoying, but either way, I didn't play bishop d6. I played bishop e7. Also a very nice move, but this just allows knight e5 whenever he wants. My opponent goes castles though, and I decide, okay, well, I'm also going to castle. I mean, there's probably nothing wrong with that move. My opponent goes rook a1, already looking really strange because, I mean, like, this rook is kind of left in the dirt, but that's not really the strange idea because sometimes your opponent in these exchange caros plays f3 and like f4 and stuff, and like tries to break out with some f5 move to hinder your e6 pawn structure. So it's not like the most weird idea, but I thought that this move didn't really work now because I didn't think that he was going to play f4. I mean, he's got these two pieces here. This bishop, is it really gonna move? Is it gonna go here or here? I don't really think so. This knight's obviously gonna go here, here if I can draw arrows, but I mean, captures. He's probably gonna take back with the pawn and knight e8. And I mean, I'm fine. I don't really see an f4 move that's going to happen. Maybe bishop g3 here, but that's a waste of time. So I decided to play a very interesting idea. I realized, okay, well, what's his best piece? What's his best piece? You might say the knight because it has the prospect of going e5. Well, yeah, maybe, but I can't really do anything about it. And one reason why I thought that the knight to e5 was a little dangerous was because it also targeted my bishop on g4. So how can I get rid of his best piece and protect mine? And I found the idea of bishop h5, which is a decent move. It's not the end of the world. It's plus 0.53. But the idea is actually this. I want to go bishop g6 and trade off his light squared bishop. And simultaneously, I want to get my bishop off of the attacking squares of the knight when it drops to e5. And my opponent goes knight e5, which I thought he would play. And I have to take. And my opponent really is kind of forced to take with the d-pawn. He's kind of forced to take with the d-pawn. If he doesn't, if he takes with the bishop, he kind of loses a lot of his pressure. Like bishop g6 happens. I mean, this is just fine. It's fine for black, equal position. I mean, it's probably just heading toward a draw like most exchange caros do. So he pretty much has to take with the d-pawn. Also, taking with the rook is just bad. So he takes with the d-pawn, and I go knight e8. which is my whole idea. My knight is actually, the idea of my knight e8 isn't really to put the knight on like c7, like jump over to c5. The idea is mostly to trade off this bishop, and then I'm gonna play like g5, g6, and knight g7. That's kind of my idea to get the knight out, which is it's gonna take a couple moves, but I thought that it was probably the best way. Queen c2. Which I thought was bad because I thought I just walked into bishop g6, which was my whole plan. Now, knight f3, and I thought that I was making some progress here, and I saw this line. I saw, okay, well, bishop d3, queen d3. I have this move queen a4, which attacks both the pawn and the dark square bishop. He's obviously going to go bishop g5, attacking on my bishop. Takes, g6, and now I'm getting my knight out to g7, right? Now I'm getting my knight out to g7. And I thought, okay, well, this kind of just makes my plan easy, because the issue was that I would have this weak pawn on g5 if I wanted to get my knight out to g7, but now that he's allowed me to do this, I'm able to get my knight out to g7, and I'm completely fine, right? So I go for this line. I go takes, queen a4, bishop g5, takes, he's starting to mate on h7, so I play g6, and now my knight is able to get out to g7, and I'm also targeting the a2 pawn. I thought this was pretty good. I thought this was a pretty good line. I was wrong because he gets the big attack. But I thought, I calculated this as well. I thought that after queen h3, I'd play h5, and he can't play g4 because my queen just captures it, and I'm okay. And after the move f4, which he plays in the game, after the move f4, if g4 comes here, now I'll be able to play knight g7, takes, there's no mate, and I'm probably just picking up some pawns on a2. And this is very scary. This is a very, very scary position, which is why I didn't do anything about it, and I took the pawn on a2, which is a crazy pawn capture, leaving my king in the dust with one defender and 4 pieces ready to attack my king. You know, the rule of +2, this is kind of the rule of +3 now, and this is really, really scary, but I didn't see anything concrete of why he should go for this. And the move is actually quite simple. The move is f5. This is the move that keeps the advantage. f5, ef, rook f. Obviously I can't capture because this is a forced mate. I'd play something like knight g7, and my opponent drops into f6. And this is actually really, really bad because he's going to bring his rook here. So I'm going to go rook a8, and we get into some line, but there's always these queen d7s, and it's a little rough. So yeah, I didn't really see that. I saw f5 as an idea, but I didn't really think that it was that good. And I only saw f5 after my opponent plays g4. Like back when I calculated this, back at like whatever it was. Yeah, back here when I calculated this. No, back here when I calculated this. I only really saw f5 in correlation with g4. I didn't see f5 as a standalone move, and I guess my opponent didn't either because they played the move g4, which is slightly worse, but it's what I expected because I thought, okay, well, he's trying to mate me. I can't take because of checkmate on h7. So knight g7, my whole plan. Now my opponent takes. I take back with a knight, of course. Taking back with the pawn is just ridiculous. I mean, king h1 here, mate. So I don't really know why I would even consider that. Knight h5. My opponent plays f5. And he spent a long time on this move, even though I thought that there was nothing really else white could go for. I mean, this just seemed like the best way to play, and I already had an idea for it. You know what's crazy? the engine, what it says is just don't care about the attack. Take on b2 as well. This is the top engine move. It's take on b2. That's a little ridiculous. I don't think I would be taking on b2. So my plan originally was just to take on f5 with e-pawn and rook takes, and I mean, I just wouldn't take the rook. I'd be fine. and I'd play some like queen g7, king g7 or something. But this happens during the game. I take and he takes with the rook, which I thought was very reasonable. Best move is kind of crazy. Best move is e6. I mean, f6 happens. This position doesn't look like white is completely winning, but he is, because my pawn on g6 is so weak, and something like knight h4 happens, and I just lose. Yeah, I didn't see that. My opponent didn't either. He takes on f5. Very reasonable move. And I realized that if I went for my like a normal idea of like king g7, like king h8 and stuff, first of all, my f7 pawn is really weak. And second of all, I mean, that just doesn't look right. That just really doesn't look right that I should go for that. And I thought of a decent idea. I thought that, okay, well, what if I induce the move rook f6? Obviously, I can't take, because after takes, even though it stops mate for a move, f6, and there's actually no stopping checkmate. So I can't even do that if he goes rook f6. So I was like, what if I induce that move and then threaten to play knight f6 at a later point after something like king g7, rook h8, rook af8, something like that. So I find the best move, and it's queen a6. This is the only move that actually works for black. The second best move is take on b2 and completely lose. So queen a6, only move. Now I'm threatening to take the rook. Like if he goes here, I can take the rook, which is very nice because my queen comes into g6. He has a perpetual check here. Oh, he has e6. e6 is the only move that works for knight f6, and I mean this is just actually a draw, which is very interesting. But I mean, I'm threatening to take on f5. So I thought I was basically forcing him to play rook f6, and then I would have just moved my queen to c4, and I thought that I was doing better because now my queen's back in the game. I'm able to go like king g7, rook a8, rook e7, rook h8, and like fight back on the h file. But my opponent didn't play rook f6, which I thought was kind of forced. My opponent goes rook f2, and I thought this was just bad. I thought that rook f2 was just bad. It's not that bad, because I don't know. I just didn't really think this was a good move, because he's bringing his rook backwards. He's kind of just going in the opposite direction. I thought that if rook f6 wasn't the best move, I thought rook f4 might be interesting, to go rook h4 and sack and take and checkmate me. This could work at some point, but my opponent goes rook f2. I find another great move. I find one of the two only moves. I find queen b6, just simply sliding my queen over to a better square and pinning the rook to his king. I'm going to bring rook a8 and maybe pick off the e5 pawn at some point. My opponent goes rook ef1. He's still not attacking my f7 pawn, because the rooks, even though they're doubled, this one is pinned to his king, so it can't move. I go rook a8, attacking the pawn, but that's not really the idea. The idea is to go rook e7, right? Go rook e7 and defend the f7 pawn after king h1, which he plays. And I don't really spend too much time on this move. I go rook e7. This was my whole plan. And as you can see, I've kind of been quelling the attack. These are like only moves, and I'm playing really well this game. I'm already like super proud of my play. Even if I lose this game, I'm still like proud of it already, because of just how I played in this defensive way. My opponent goes queen d3, which I thought was just a bad move. I mean, what does it even do? It attacks d5, but is that really that big of a deal? I don't think it is. Either way, I did defend it. I go queen c6, simply defending the pawn, and actually my queen is even better placed here, because now we have d4 ideas with discovered checks, and I mean, I'm just better. Now, queen f3. I mean, I'm not actually better, but I think I'm better. Queen f3. I decide to find the best move again. I find actually there's a couple best moves here. But I find the best one, which is the move f5. A very nice move. f5. Basically saying that if he doesn't take, now I have a clamp over here with this nice little, if I can draw arrows at all, with this nice little wooden shield here. Not really wooden shield, but whatever. With this nice little words here. And I'm just doing well. I'm just up a pawn now. I'm just up a pawn. And if he takes on f6, if he goes en passant, then I'll take back with the rook. And I was calculating some crazy stuff. I was calculating queen f6 in many lines, like queen f6, sacking the queen for some arbitrary stuff. But I always figured that I was doing better here after the move queen e8. And if he goes rook f8, obviously I'll just trade my queen for 2 rooks, and I'm up in exchange in the endgame and a pawn. So I didn't think that would work. It was very interesting. And I thought that he also had some interesting lines, like I was always calculating this queen sack on h5, which never works. It never works, but it's really, really, really scary. And I have to be like entirely sure that this is okay for me. Like if I take on h5, it's only -2. I have to take the rook first, and I mean this is easy, but you gotta really make sure. My opponent instead finds a really weird move. He plays rook g2, which just kind of loses the game actually, and now I'm better. Finally, I'm like almost winning now. I play rook e5, I win a pawn. He has no attack. I'm still calculating this move, queen h5, which makes a little more sense now, because I thought this was maybe the idea, but actually that would be a bad move. We gotta go king h7. The reason why it's a bad move is because he also attacks g6 when he takes the rook. We go king h7, and this is fine. This is fine. Oh, it's so funny when you get these like insane positions with all these queen sacrifices looming. And I went with queen h3. Interesting move. He's attacking my knight. What he wants to do, he wants to move his knight. Wants to move his knight and win my knight on h5. If I can't draw arrows today, move his knight and win my knight on h5 because of this pin towards my king. So I don't want to allow that. I go rook e8. Reason being because after knight f3, he's not attacking my rook, so I can play king h7 now, and I'm okay. If you can hear shouts in the background, that's because football is on, and football is very, very important. So my opponent goes rook fg1, another bad move, giving me even more of an advantage. And now I just have to defend my pawn. I go rook f6. Actually, is the best move, rook f6. And I'm just saying, okay, well, come at me. Come at me. You have nothing. You have nothing. This move at knight f3, the pawn is defended. King h7. I'm fine. I'm fine. And I'm just better. I'm just completely winning. My opponent goes queen h4, and now I'm such a stupid idiot. I'm a stupid idiot. I play a5, and I'm such a... I don't know why I played this move. a5, my idea was that I didn't see any real ideas for white, and it was kind of the same idea as queen a2 as before, but a5 is much worse because there are actually really strong ideas for white here, and this gave back a lot of the advantage. I really shouldn't have done that. A move I could have played, d4 is kind of crazy. That's the top engine move. I don't think that's very human. A move I could have played was queen c4, just offering a queen trade after like takes. This is easily winning. After something like queen h3, I mean, I'm fine. Like I can repeat moves, or I can go like rook e7, defend this, and maybe I can move my knight in the future. And also I'm threatening a fork on f4. So I don't know why I played a5. I really just thought that he didn't have anything. My opponent goes knight f3, obviously, and I already thought that I was kind of busted here because he's going to d4. My queen is going to be kicked out of its good square, and there is going to be pressure on my f5 pawn, and I could actually lose this game. So I go king f8. He's also attacking my knight, just very low-key. This knight is hanging. So I go king f8. And now it's a draw. I blended away all my advantage. Now it's a draw. And I'm fine with the draw. My opponent is like 300 points higher rated than me. I'm fine with the draw. But I mean, Queen G5, he comes in the H6. That's drawn. That's actually just a draw. My opponent goes Knight D4, gives me back the advantage. And I have to move my queen. I have to keep it on the 6th rank because I need to defend my G6 pawn. And I do. I play the worst move, though. I play Queen B6. Every other move is better. Queen D6, I thought was stupid. I don't know why I would play this, but the idea is simple. I have Queen F4 ideas. Obviously, this is fine. And Queen A6 is also just better because, I mean, I guess my queen can infiltrate in this line, and with Queen B6, my queen is just staring into a wall. Whatever. I go Queen B6. My opponent goes Queen G5 with the idea of Queen H6 and coming in. And now the last move that I have to keep actually surviving here. I have to bring my rook up. I have to go Rook E4 or Rook E5 or King F7. Those are the 3 moves that work. Every other move doesn't work. And I play Knight G7. And I lose the game because of Queen H6. He's threatening the move Knight H6 here, which would just win the game completely because I can't take either way. If I take with the pawn, my knight drops on G7 with check, and I completely lose. If I take with the rook, then my pawn drops, and my knight is actually lost here, and also my queen is hit. So he's threatening that, and so I play the move King F7, also just defending my G6 pawn. And the move I missed, he played Queen H7, and I just completely blanked on this move, and I didn't realize how strong it was. He's literally just threatening to win the game right now. He's threatening Knight F5 again. Like, let's say I play something stupid. Knight F5 completely wins. Same reasons as before, but even worse now. So I have to defend it. I go Rook E5, defending my F5 pawn. Knight F3. I bring my rook back to E7, which I thought was the only move. Basically, after my king moves, the knight will be defended. My opponent goes Knight H4, another move I missed. I go King E8, trying to run my king, bending the pin, and maybe I'll get like some knighty move. I don't know. Knight G6, go Rook F7, knight up, and I have really one more trick that can maybe make me survive. I go Queen E6. Very nice little trick, takes, and you might say, oh, but the knight is hanging. But if you take the knight, I actually have a perpetual check, which is really nice. He doesn't fall for that. He goes Queen H8 check first, and now he takes the knight. The reason why it's perpetual check is if it takes here and rook back, I pick up the queen. So that's why Queen H8 wins, and the rest of the game is easy. He takes, and he fiends for a queen trade for a couple moves. I try to do my best and defend myself, but in the end, I would lose a pawn. He comes here, threatening queen trade on G8. I move up, which was just a bad move, obviously, because it walks into the pin, and just Rook F3, and I just resign because there's nothing I can do. And yeah, genuinely, even though I lost, and in brutal fashion I lost, I'm still proud of this game. I mean, the defense was pretty awesome. I was able to really get my position like stabilized. I even got in a winning position there after a while. Queen A2 was a wild move, and I'm honestly kind of proud I played it. Even though it lost, I'm kind of proud I played it. This game was pretty good. In all honesty, this game was pretty good. And well, let's check with game review. What was the accuracy? Probably pretty bad. What was the accuracy? 84.6 to 80.2. It's 80% bad, but not too bad. And well, I mean, either way, this was a decent game. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this instructive. Daily videos are going to continue. Sorry for the week break. Yeah, good evening and good night.